Let's bring in Pule Mabe into the conversation. He speaks on behalf of the ANC. I imagine, Pule Mabe, you are relieved because you stood the very real risk that in about 93 municipalities and a number of wards in those 93 municipalities, you were more than likely not going to have councillor candidates. But as things stand now, the path has been paved for you.
Well, of course, Thulas, we do welcome the judgment by the ConCourt dismissing the application of the Democratic Alliance, because we have always argued in the ANC that the right of a person or citizens to vote is intricately linked to the right to be voted for as well. So if you can open a voter's roll for Thulas Simelane to be able to participate in those elections, also give Thulas the honors, that Thulas must equally enjoy that privilege that comes with being a voter. Because for you to be voted for, you must also be a voter yourself. So this has always been the argument of the ANC. We have said, even at the time when we joined the application of the IEC to the ConCourt, these are some of the reasons that we had advanced when we dealt with the issue of COVID, why we supported the application to the IEC's application to the Constitutional Court to shift elections. But of course, ConCourt has ruled differently. We had to do everything else in our power over the past few weeks to make sure that we are compliant with the IEC's timetable. Our own representatives who sit in the PLC have been coming back to fit the organization with what is expected of us and what we are expected to be doing to make sure that we can comply. I can also confirm here, Thulas, that we will be able to meet the timeline as set out by the IEC to register all of our candidates.
But it's a sorry state of affairs, is it not, Pule Mabe, that the ANC, which describes itself as the leader of society, had to come in through, and I was jokingly saying to you off air, quote unquote, through the eye of the needle into this election?
Well, Thulas, I wouldn't say so. You would appreciate, Thulas, you yourself over the past few weeks would find it difficult to have someone in studio with you. It was a big no. You'll actually say, Pule, if we are to speak, let's do it on Zoom. Because of this monster we have called COVID. Conditions that we are finding ourselves now are not normal. They are created by this pandemic. So everything else, it is for the first time that all political parties since the dawn of democracy are having to really run their own campaigning in the manner that we are having to do now. We are all learning. It was going to be about trial and error, but we can only become better out of the experiences that we shall have earned out of all of what is happening now.
I wonder if you've had the opportunity to discuss this with your leadership as well as your legal representatives around the fact that, what do you make of the fact that this decision delivered today basically amounts to, in a way, the Constitutional Court washing its hands off the decision of the IEC to say, don't claim to be relying on what we said in our order, in our previous order. You are
empowered by the relevant statutes to be able to do
What's the
that.
thinking around there?
Our own legal and monitoring team is studying the judgment carefully so that we can understand and appreciate the arguments that are being laid, because there could be a precedence later on, so that the institutions, Chapter 9 institutions like the IEC that are independent and all of that, have got to fully understand what powers they enjoy given to them by the relevant prescripts or statutes that govern the work that they're expected to do, especially when it comes to electioneering. I mean, there could be a number of slides to look at there. One school of thought could be saying that it's the ConCourt not wanting to appear to be interfering into the work that other independent institutions are expected to be doing. But we are studying this to understand it better and empower us so that we know how we move forward.
What do you think of the specter of the decision based on Section 11.2 that of reopening and extending the deadline for candidate list submission possibly being challenged elsewhere in another court? Because from what the ConCourt is saying here now is that, even if you may think that their decision is flawed and invalid, this doesn't engage our jurisdiction on an urgent basis. That potentially, and the DA will be speaking at 12, it does potentially open the possibility, knowing South Africa and how litigious a society we are.
But Tulas, if all of us are really serious about elections, there's no one who wins elections through the courts. Elections are won on the ground through a popular vote. So we need to move a bit from these litigious processes. We now need to focus our energies on the ground. Actually, those that are placing their reliance on the courts to rule in their favor are the ones that are actually looking for the needle through the eye of the needle. So we are not looking for the needle ourselves. We were on the ground this weekend. The president of the African National Congress was in Soweto with the late mayor, Comrade Jolly D. Mandongo, may his soul rest in peace, and all of us were there. And the reception we received from the people of Soweto, even as they raised their challenges around electricity, it still showed that people have got trust in the African National Congress. They believe that...
not really, though. When they are booing you, that's not a sign of trust in the African National Congress.
We were not
booed.
Booing
is not a sign of trust.
We were not booed. I was there myself, so maybe I should be told where the booing happened. We were not booed at all. So we need to give society the correct picture. We were there. The president of the ANC went house to house in Soweto, in Nomzamo, spoke to the community of Shawelo, spoke to the community of Naledi. There were some nuances, people who did not come from the ANC, and this is where we need to really talk to other political parties. You don't deploy people from different political parties to go and disrupt gatherings of the ANC and want to call that booing. You don't do that. That's what happened. We saw people there with some green T-shirts of these new political parties there trying to, do vuvuzelas there. And you could see these are not ANC people. They represent different political parties. Now, the amount of tolerance we need is that if the ANC does its own programs and you don't agree with the ANC, you are at liberty to participate in activities of your own party. Tolerance, political tolerance demands of us to restrain and restrict ourselves on affairs of other parties. This is also written in the Electoral Code on how political parties are expected to carry themselves. Those that, if we go into a community, those that love and believe in the ANC show up to those events, they ask their own questions. Because an ANC event, Tulas, is not like a government imbizo. No, a government imbizo,
come one, come all.
Yes, but so look at it this way. If we call and if there's an ANC event going on, if you are not interested to listen what the African National Congress will be conveying to the community, then don't come and participate. But I can tell you now, as we left those communities, we've been receiving calls of people who want T-shirts, who are asking when are we going to be coming again. And we can also report here that there's been a bit of a change in terms of dealing with the electricity issue. The transformers were delivered in Shawelo. It is the community members who are sending us those messages.
The transformers were delivered in Shawelo when?
We got a message yesterday about the kind of intervention that ESCOM...
Isn't it telling, though, Pule, that it would happen now?
No.
It would take an event where the president goes there and the people raise these issues sharply. Why was this not sorted out way before election season?
Actually, as we went to Shawelo, part of the briefing we received, because the MMC responsible for energy, Comrade Mpho Moerane, part of the briefing we received is that they have already begun discussions with ESCOM for ESCOM to transfer the distribution and everything else that relates to electricity in Soweto to City Power, and that the MOU should have been signed by the end of September. That had nothing to do with elections. Everything else that is happening now was really on the program, including the delivery of the transformers. We were told, as we went there, that, by the way, in terms of the program they had, was that part of this transition of moving everything to city power is also going to include replacing transformers. Sure. But also, Tulas, at this point we must make, what we were also being told, what the community told the president when he was there, is that part of the problem is not necessarily the ESCOM crisis, it's Nyoga. People who cut cables and all of that. Now, citizens are also saying that we are not just being disadvantaged by the state utility agency that deals with electricity.
I've got to move us along very quickly.
Yes.
Let me suggest to you, here's where you will run into problems very quickly, where there'll be no urgent provocateur. It is in your own processes around candidate selection. Reports suggesting that you found instances where clearly the candidate selection processes were manipulated. I thought you appointed a whole electoral commission with former President Kgalema Motlanthe for that purpose, but still, you are still beset by problems that you were trying to solve with Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma in 2011.
Well, if you read the statement we issued at the conclusion of the Special National Executive Committee on Friday, we dealt with that quite substantial in terms of the sort of actions that we will be taking as the African National Congress. Comrade Kgalema presented to the Special National Executive Committee a report of the Electoral Committee and made certain observations. And we actually welcomed and accepted the recommendations. The recommendations are such that if we find that there has been a leader of the ANC at whatever level who was involved in undermining our guidelines, that leader will be acted upon, whether they are regional secretaries or they are in the provinces.
Right.
No one is going to be spared from this process, because if the ANC is not seen to be acting against those who transgress, there's no any form of consequence management, then it means we're just putting these processes in jail. We need to show people that we act. No, we are taking action.
You and I know that you could pay the price knowing how your voters behave. If they are not enthused by the candidate who ends up on the ballot paper, it's happened many instances where they just sit at home and not show up.
Well, Tulas, I can tell you now, if, yet again to use a metaphor of the eye of the needle, if there is a candidate who had sneaked through the eye of the needle, in the metaphor you used earlier, and later found that this was not the right candidate that was supposed to have been there, the ANC's process are not going to stop now, Tulas. No, we are serious now. There are many others that we've already acted on. We just have not reported to the media because some of these issues are internal. The issue is, once we make it a habit to announce even things that are supposed to be dealt with internally, then it will be well within your right to ask us, hey, how far did you go with this one? How far did you go with that one?
Lastly,
but we are taking action.
Completely out of time, Pule. While I have you here, there's been a report that says the SIU links you to, this whole Karikis deal in Ekurhuleni and your involvement with Municipal. What's the story there?
Well, I don't know. I guess the SIU are better placed to answer your question, because no one has ever approached me and questioned me about such. If I knew, and if I've ever been approached by any institution of state, I will be able to answer you. It's important to us to understand this. The ANC is running an electioneering campaign. I'm not going to be defocused by things that are planted out there.
Sure, not defocused, but perhaps asked to account.
No. I'm not saying defocused by you. Yeah. You are asking me, you are putting a question to me where I was mentioned in the press.
Sure.
And worryingly, I get mentioned about something that was already out there in 2019.
I remember
Get to be mentioned when we are right in the middle of an electioneering campaign, because there are some in factional corners in the African National Congress whom we have acted against on their own tendencies. Some were our staffers. We have had to dismiss them because of their own conduct. Instead of accepting the decisions that have been taken by the organization, they've sought to go to social media and besmirch our names. We can assure them, whether it's Kalniaus or anyone, we can assure them out there that we are not going to be sidetracked from doing the work we are expected to do for the ANC because of agent provocateurs whose fraud ways are well known by everyone in this country.